Righty-ho there, champs, and that title is not clickbait, trust me. This thing is too powerful. I will tell you why later. So if you want insanely cheap Windows keys or upgrade from Windows 10 Home or even get Office 2016 at an insanely cheap price, head on down to 0 and 9. The links are in the description, and I even have a discount code to make these insanely cheap prices even cheaper. Now this GigaByte AORUS X7 DT V8 is a gamer's dream. Like seriously, 17-inch laptop, killer 144Hz display with G-Sync, Pantone certified, a super connected feeling when you game with this. The colors are bang on, it's matte display. It has 4 DDR slots, so up to 64 gigabytes memory, ESS, Sabre, Hi-Fi, audio DAC, you know, all the ports you want, Ethernet, display port, even a fast SD card slot, 2 M.2 drives, 2.5-inch drive bay. It can output to an 8K monitor. Everything a gamer would want, this has. And even though it's 17 inches, it's very thin. It's actually lighter than a lot of 15-inch full-on gaming laptops. I was very surprised how thin it is. It reminds me very much of the Aero 15, although it has more of a gamer aesthetic, but it is very similar with the keyboard and just that premium build it has. And now this is of course powered by 8th generation Intel part. This has a unique part. It's not an i9, it's not a regular i7-8750H, it's an i7-8850H, which is a very rare one. Usually you can get the 8750H or the i9. This one sits in between those two and not many manufacturers use it. It does have indeed a faster clock speed, 2.6 is its base speed. So its base speed's faster, can boost up to 4.3 GHz, of course that is single core. This also has 16 GB of RAM in dual channel, a GTX 1080, so we're talking a full GTX 1080, and this laptop here is without a doubt the most powerful laptop I have ever reviewed. Now I haven't reviewed all the other 8th generation gaming laptops which will have GTX 1080s as well, some of the higher end ones, but as it stands today this is the most powerful laptop I have ever used. The good thing about it, it doesn't throttle. Temperatures are well controlled. It is loud. It's a gaming laptop. All gaming laptops are loud. It's no more louder than any other gaming laptop. When it comes to the CPU frequencies, during gaming you will get 4 GHz or so. Now when the temperatures climb up towards the 90s on the CPU side, it will back off slightly to 3.5 GHz. Now these are boost clocks. It never ever throttles below its actual real clock speed, so it doesn't thermal throttle at all. The GPU is only like in the 70s, so the thermal's well controlled. You get the maximum performance out of these parts, and I was worried how thin it was with a GTX 1080 in it. I thought maybe it would throttle, but it doesn't. It gives you full maximum performance. Also has an RGB keyboard, so your gamers out there are going to love it. So I will have my live gaming at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that because you'll see the live telemetry and you'll see the temperatures and frames. But let's get on to the gaming benchmarks. So of course this has a 1080p 144Hz G-Sync monitor, and with the GTX 1080 it just laughs at like high settings, ultra settings, whatever you want. You really have to crank the settings up. But Deus Ex Mankind Divided, you got 121 frames per second at high. Now that's the system crusher there. Doesn't get any worse than that. PUBG at high settings I was getting 142 frames per second. At ultra settings it was like 129 frames per second. Battlefield 1 at ultra 146 frames per second. GTA 5 at ultra 133 frames per second. And with Fortnight I was getting 160 frames per second with epic settings. It was actually faster than that on Fortnite. I actually had the frame limiter up to 180. It would have went over 180 frames if I didn't have that frame limiter on. And that leads me on to why I think this laptop is too powerful. I think it's too powerful for a 1080p display. They're pretty much maxing out that 144Hz of that display. If you put them down to lower settings like high, you'd even get higher frames per second. Now don't get me wrong, this display is awesome. You're going to love it. It is one of the best gaming displays I've ever used. But with this much power, I'd love to see a 1440p option here. And at 1440p, I reckon we'd still get over 100 frames per second. So I'd really like to see that. 4K, it doesn't have a 4K option. I don't care about 4K. I'm all about the high refresh rate monitors when it comes to gaming. As I said, the display is awesome, but it's so powerful, it could actually power a high resolution display. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Check out the live gameplay. If you're new around here, please subscribe. And until next time, guys, tally ho. Yes, have a look at those frames. Woo! Now, what do I mean by it's too powerful? I was not clickbaiting, it's too powerful. What I mean by that is, you can hear the fans. I'll be silent in a minute so you can hear them. What I mean by it's too powerful is, let's go. This is at ultra settings, okay? And I reckon generally, for most games, this setup here with this GTX 1080 and this 6-core 8th generation i7 is probably too powerful for a 1080p display. As you can see here, I'm pushing what? This is at ultra, well, pushing in excess of 100 frames per second. It's 144 Hertz refresh rate. But there are other games I was playing, like Fortnight and... Do I have to turn? No, I don't have to turn. Fortnite and stuff, other games like even PUBG, I was getting well in excess of 144 frames at ultra. Actually, PUBG was at high, but most games it will be able to crack the 144 frames per second no problem. So I think it's actually too powerful for a 1080p display. Now, it doesn't have another option for a 4K. I wouldn't get a 4K anyway. High refresh rate 1080p for gaming is much better than 4K if you ask me, especially 17 inch. I mean, if you had a big monitor, maybe a bit of difference. But maybe a 1440p option would be awesome with this as well. So it's almost too powerful for a 1080p, but don't let that stop you. This display is awesome. You know, it's color calibrated. It looks fantastic. Gaming's fantastic. Super smooth connected G-Sync. It is awesome. I'll let you listen to the fans. It doesn't throttle. The clocks will reduce from around, 4,000 to, 3.5 gigahertz or 3,500 megahertz. But it doesn't throttle. I've had big PUBG sessions on it, like long PUBG sessions, and no issues whatsoever. It's a fantastic, it is the most powerful laptop I ever viewed. It's probably the best gaming laptop I've used, full stop. It is fantastic. I haven't tested all the 8th generation gaming laptops yet, so that will come in the fullness of time, but it's not much heavier. In actual fact, it's lighter than a lot of 15 inches, like full-on gaming laptops. It's such a great device. I mean, the only downsides is maybe, it's loud, but every gaming laptop's loud, so, I wouldn't hold that against it. But maybe a 1440p option, or some people might want the 4K option. Other than that, it's just a great device for even like content creation. If you're into After Effects and stuff like that, you got the beautiful calibrated display there. And maybe if you were a content creator, you might appreciate a 4K option, so that would be good as well. Because these things are great for content creation. I know a guy, I'll leave a link to his channel, Surface Studio. He uses Alienware for his visual effects editing and stuff like that. So After Effects, we're talking, what else does he use? Houdini and Blender, I think he uses, and all these other things. Premiere Pro, of course. And he got a gaming laptop because he wanted the power. Now, I reckon maybe if he had his choice over again, he might want to consider this definitely, because it's got 6 cores. The one he had 4 cores, but it's got the color calibrated display. So in that sense, the Alienware he had although it's great for gaming, for content creation, it's not as good as this, because this has a calibrated display. The display on the Alienware is great for gaming, and it is okay for content creation as well, but this is color calibrated, so it is like on point, like it's spot on with the colors there. And as you can see, look, we're going up to 4 gigahertz on the CPU there. This is a CPU heavy game, GTA 5 as well. Look at that, and 1800, that clock stays consistent, and yeah, you might touch into the 90s every now and then, but the firmwares are well controlled. Yes, it's a gaming laptop, it's loud, but I really do love this. Whoa, no, I did not want to run over that. It's a bit disappointing. And as you can see, the frames are very high, 100 frames per second. Interestingly, it has slowed down a bit in terms of frames per second. That's just GTA. You can't trust GTA, it's just weird.